I'm about to share something with you that will completely change how you think about high blood pressure. Something that the medical establishment doesn't want you to know, because if you knew this truth, their billion-dollar blood pressure medication industry would collapse overnight. And I mean that quite literally. The pharmaceutical industry makes over $30 billion every single year just from blood pressure medications alone. That's 30 billion reasons to keep you on pills for life instead of teaching you how to actually heal your arteries. I'm Barbara O'Neill, and for over 40 years I've been teaching natural health principles to people all over the world. I've travelled to 6 continents, I've spoken to audiences of thousands, I've worked personally with tens of thousands of individuals suffering from hypertension, people who were told they'd be on medication for life, people who were told their condition was irreversible, people who were warned that if they stopped their medication they would have a stroke or heart attack, people who had completely given up hope that they would ever be free from the morning ritual of swallowing pills that made them feel exhausted, dizzy and disconnected from their own body. And I've watched those same people, week after week, month after month, walk away from blood pressure medications completely. Not by taking more pills, not by adding another medication to their regimen, not by following the standard medical advice that clearly isn't working for millions of people, but by understanding what high blood pressure actually is at the cellular level and addressing the root causes that created it in the first place. You see, everything you've been told about hypertension is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how your body works. It's based on outdated science from the 1960s and 70s that's been proven wrong. But the medical system continues to teach it because changing the entire paradigm would mean admitting they'd been wrong for 50 years. And that's not something institutions do easily. Your doctor tells you that high blood pressure is a disease of too much pressure in your blood vessels. They explain it like a garden hose. Too much water pressure and the hose might burst. So they say the solution is to reduce that pressure with medication. Lower the numbers on the monitor and you're fine, you're safe. Your risk of heart attack and stroke goes down. Take your pills every day and you'll be okay. But that's not fixing anything, that's not healing anything, that's not addressing why the pressure elevated in the first place. That's like seeing the check engine light on in your car, getting annoyed by the constant blinking, taking out the bulb so the light doesn't bother you anymore, and thinking you've solved the problem. Have you solved the problem? Of course not. The engine is still failing. It's still broken. It's still headed toward complete breakdown. You've just stopped the warning signal. Blood pressure medication does the exact same thing. It manipulates the pressure reading on your monitor without addressing why the pressure is elevated in the first place. And here's what nobody tells you, what your doctor has probably never explained to you, what might be the most important thing you learn today. The elevated pressure is not the disease. Let me say that again because it's critical. The elevated pressure is not the disease. The elevated pressure is your body's intelligent response to an underlying problem. Your body is raising the pressure for a very specific reason. And until you address that reason, until you fix the actual problem, you'll never truly heal. You'll just be managing a symptom while the underlying damage continues to progress silently. Blood pressure medication does the exact same thing. It manipulates the pressure reading on your monitor without addressing why the pressure is elevated in the first place. And here's what nobody tells you, what your doctor has probably never explained to you. What might be the most important thing you learn today? The elevated pressure is not the disease. Let me say that again because it's critical. The elevated pressure is not the disease. The elevated pressure is your body's intelligent response to an underlying problem. Your body is raising the pressure for a very specific reason. And until you address that reason, until you fix the actual problem, you'll never truly heal. You'll just be managing a symptom while the underlying damage continues to progress silently. Now, before I go any further, I want to make something absolutely clear, and I need you to hear this with complete understanding. I am not a medical doctor. I don't prescribe medications. I don't diagnose disease. I'm not licensed to practice medicine, and I'm not trying to practice medicine. What I do, what I've dedicated my entire adult life to, is teaching people how their body works. Teaching them about the design of the human body, about the incredible healing capacity that every single person possesses, about the natural principles that support health rather than simply suppressing symptoms. And if what you're about to hear resonates with you, if it makes sense, if you feel in your heart that this is truth, if you want to try a different approach to your high blood pressure, you need to work with a healthcare practitioner who understands natural medicine, someone who can monitor you properly, someone who understands both conventional and natural approaches, someone who can help you implement these principles safely, never stop your medications without proper supervision. I cannot stress this enough. Blood pressure medications should never be stopped abruptly. The rebound effect can be dangerous, even life-threatening. You need medical supervision as you implement these natural protocols. But also, and this is equally important, never accept that you'll be on medication for life without exploring whether your body can heal. Don't just resign yourself to believing that you have a chronic, incurable condition that requires daily medication until you die. Because I've seen it happen thousands of times, literally thousands of times. Your body is designed by the Creator to heal, doing exactly that when given the right support. When the obstacles to healing are removed and the building blocks for repair are provided, healing happens. It happens consistently, it happens predictably, it happens in ways that shock conventional doctors who've never seen it before. So let's talk about what hypertension actually is. Not the textbook definition that your doctor learned in medical school, not the simplified explanation they give you in a 10-minute office visit, but what's really happening in your body at the cellular level. At the level of your arteries, your blood vessels, your endothelial cells, when your blood pressure is elevated, your circulatory system is designed brilliantly, and I mean brilliantly. Every detail has purpose, every structure has function. Your heart pumps blood through your arteries to deliver oxygen and nutrients to every single cell in your body. From the cells in your brain that allow you to think and remember and dream, to the cells in your toes that allow you to walk and balance, every cell depends on adequate blood flow. No blood flow means no oxygen. No oxygen means cell death. So your body prioritizes blood flow above almost everything else. The arteries that carry blood away from your heart are not rigid pipes. This is crucial to understand. They're not like the copper pipes under your sink that just passively transport water. They're flexible, living tissues made of specialized cells that expand and contract with each heartbeat. When your heart pumps, when it forcefully ejects blood into your aorta, the main artery leaving your heart, that artery expands, it balloons outward, absorbing some of the pressure wave. This expansion keeps the blood flowing smoothly without excessive force slamming against the vessel walls. It protects your delicate organs from the full force of your heartbeat. Then, when your heart relaxes between beats, the arteries recoil. They spring back to their original size, gently pushing the blood forward, maintaining blood flow even while the heart is resting. This creates a steady, even flow throughout your body. Not a pounding, pulsing slam with each heartbeat, but a smooth, continuous delivery of oxygen-rich blood. It's a beautiful system when you really think about it. The flexibility of your arteries acts like a shock absorber in a car. When you hit a bump, the shock absorber compresses, absorbing the impact so you don't feel the full jolt. Your arteries do the same thing with your heartbeat, but this entire system, this elegant design, depends on one absolutely critical factor. Your arteries must remain flexible. They must be able to expand and recoil thousands of times per day, millions of times per year, billions of times over your lifetime. And here's where the problem begins for most people with hypertension. As you age, and especially if you've been eating the standard modern diet for decades, your arteries lose their flexibility. They become stiff, they become rigid, they become hardened. Medical science calls this arteriosclerosis, which literally means hardening of the arteries. But that term doesn't capture what's really happening at the cellular level. Your arteries aren't just getting stiff like an old rubber band that's lost its elasticity. They're undergoing fundamental structural changes. The cells that make up the arterial wall are being damaged, inflamed, and eventually replaced with scar tissue and calcium deposits. It's not just aging, it's damage. Progressive, accumulating cellular damage. And when your arteries can't expand to absorb the pressure from your heartbeat anymore, when they've lost that critical flexibility, your body faces a serious problem. It has two choices really. Either allow the blood flow to diminish because the rigid arteries can't accommodate the full volume of blood with each heartbeat, which would starve your organs of oxygen and lead to tissue death, organ failure and death. Or increase the pressure to force blood through the now rigid vessels, maintaining adequate blood flow despite the loss of arterial flexibility. Your body, in its wisdom, in its incredible drive to keep you alive, chooses the second option. It chooses life. It chooses to increase the pressure. And that's why your blood pressure goes up. It's not a disease in the traditional sense. It's not some random malfunction of your cardiovascular system. It's an intelligent adaptation. Your body is compensating for the loss of arterial flexibility by increasing the force of blood flow. So the real question, the question that will actually lead you to healing, isn't how do I lower my blood pressure? The real question is, how do I restore flexibility to my arteries? How do I reverse the damage that caused them to stiffen in the first place? And that question, that shift in thinking, leads us down a completely different path than the one conventional medicine offers. It leads us to address root causes instead of managing symptoms. And that path is what we're going to walk together for the rest of this video. The first mechanism is something I call arterial concrete. Let me explain what I mean. Inside your arteries, there's a delicate lining called the endothelium. This lining is only one cell thick, but it's one of the most important tissues in your entire body. When this lining is healthy, it produces a substance called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a gas that signals your arterial muscles to relax. When your endothelium is producing adequate nitric oxide, your arteries stay flexible, blood flows easily, and your blood pressure remains normal. But the modern diet is absolutely devastating to this delicate endothelial lining. Every time you eat processed food, refined sugar, or industrial seed oils, you create what's called oxidative stress in your bloodstream. Think of oxidative stress like rust forming inside your arteries. These oxidized particles attack your endothelial cells, damaging them, inflaming them, eventually killing them. And when your endothelial cells are damaged, they stop producing nitric oxide. Without nitric oxide, your arteries can't relax properly. They remain constricted, tense, rigid, but it gets worse. When your endothelium is inflamed and damaged, something else happens. Calcium begins to deposit in the arterial walls. Now, calcium is essential for your bones. Your body carefully regulates where calcium goes. In a healthy body, calcium goes to your bones and teeth where it belongs. But when your arteries are inflamed, your body starts depositing calcium in the arterial walls as part of an inflammatory response. This is called vascular calcification, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Your arteries are literally turning to stone. I call it arterial concrete. I once worked with a man named William. He was 71 years old and had been on blood pressure medication for 15 years. 3 different medications. His blood pressure was controlled at around 130/85. His doctor was satisfied, but William wasn't satisfied. He felt terrible. He was exhausted all the time. He had brain fog. His legs hurt when he walked. He came to me asking if there was anything natural he could do. When I looked at his case, I immediately saw the problem. His medications were controlling the pressure reading, but they weren't addressing the arterial damage. I explained to him about the endothelium, about nitric oxide, about calcium deposits hardening his arteries like concrete. We started him on a protocol focused on healing his endothelium and removing calcium from his arterial walls. I'll explain exactly what that protocol was later in this video. But here's what happened. Within 3 months, William's energy started returning. His brain fog cleared, his leg pain diminished, we measured his blood pressure regularly, it was stable. After 6 months working with his doctor, we reduced one of his medications. His blood pressure remained stable. After 9 months, we reduced another medication, still stable. After 1 year, William was on only 1 blood pressure medication and his doctor was shocked. His blood pressure was actually better than it had been on 3 medications. It was averaging 118 over 76. But here's what really amazed William's doctor. They did an arterial stiffness test, something called pulse wave velocity. This test measures how fast a pressure wave travels through your arteries. Stiff arteries conduct the wave very quickly. Flexible arteries slow it down. When William first came to me, nobody had measured his pulse wave velocity. But after 1 year on the protocol, his doctor ordered the test. The results showed that William's arteries had regained significant flexibility. They were functioning like arteries of someone 20 years younger. The arterial concrete was dissolving, his vessels were healing. That's what I want you to understand. Your arteries can heal, the damage is not permanent, but it requires addressing the mechanisms that created the damage in the first place. The second mechanism destroying your arterial flexibility is what I call the sugar glue effect. This one is particularly insidious because most people have no idea it's happening to them. Here's what you need to understand. When you eat carbohydrates, your body breaks them down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream. This is normal. Glucose is your body's primary fuel. But there's a big difference between how your body handles glucose when you're eating natural whole foods versus when you're eating refined processed carbohydrates. When you eat an apple, for example, the fiber in the apple slows down the release of glucose into your bloodstream. Your blood sugar rises gently, moderately, and your body easily manages it. But when you eat white bread, pasta, crackers, cereal, or anything made with refined flour and sugar, glucose floods into your bloodstream all at once. Your blood sugar spikes rapidly, and here's where the damage occurs. When glucose is elevated in your bloodstream, it doesn't just sit there harmlessly. Glucose is sticky. It attaches to proteins in your blood and in your tissues. This process is called glycation, and it's one of the most destructive processes in your body. When glucose attaches to proteins, it forms what are called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. Think of AGEs like superglue hardening inside your body. These glycated proteins accumulate in your arterial walls, making them stiff and inflexible. The more often your blood sugar spikes, the more AGEs accumulate. Over years and decades, your arteries become increasingly rigid, increasingly damaged. This is why diabetics have such high rates of hypertension and cardiovascular disease. The constant high blood sugar is literally gluing their arteries into rigidity. But here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to be diabetic for this to happen. Every time you eat refined carbohydrates, even if your fasting blood sugar is normal, you're creating AGEs. You're contributing to arterial stiffness. The standard breakfast of cereal, toast, or a muffin is spiking your blood sugar to 160, 180, sometimes 200. Even though it comes back down, the damage from that spike has been done. Glucose has attached to proteins in your arterial walls. Another layer of glue has been added. And this happens multiple times per day if you're eating the standard modern diet. I worked with a woman named Dorothy. She was 68 years old with hypertension for 12 years on 2 medications. Her blood pressure was controlled, but she was gaining weight, feeling sluggish and experiencing joint pain. When we went through her diet, I discovered she was eating carbohydrates at every meal: cereal for breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, pasta for dinner. She thought she was eating healthy because she chose whole wheat bread and brown rice, but her body was still experiencing blood sugar spikes multiple times per day. We made one primary change to Dorothy's diet. We drastically reduced her refined carbohydrate intake. No more bread, pasta, rice, cereal, or anything made with flour. Instead, we focused her diet on vegetables, quality proteins, healthy fats, and a small amount of fruit. Within 2 weeks, Dorothy noticed her energy improving. Within 1 month, she'd lost 8 pounds without trying. Within 3 months, her blood pressure had dropped significantly. We reduced one medication. Within 6 months, she was off blood pressure medication entirely. Her average blood pressure was 122/78, completely normal with no medication. What happened? By stabilizing her blood sugar, we stopped the production of new AGs. And we did something else, which I'll explain in the protocol section. We actively worked to break down the AGs that had already accumulated. This allowed her arteries to regain flexibility. Her body healed itself once we removed the dietary assault that was damaging it. That's the power of understanding mechanism. When you know what's causing the damage, you can stop it. And when you stop the damage, your body can heal. The third mechanism is one that almost nobody talks about, but it's absolutely critical. I call it the mineral imbalance that's silently destroying your arteries. You've probably been told to reduce your salt intake to lower your blood pressure, correct? Almost every doctor tells their hypertensive patients to eat less salt, and there is some truth to this. Excess sodium can contribute to fluid retention and elevated blood pressure in certain individuals. But here's what they don't tell you. Salt is not the problem for most people. The problem is the ratio of sodium to potassium in your body, and specifically the catastrophic deficiency of magnesium that almost everyone with hypertension has. Let me explain how this works. Your cells maintain a very precise balance of minerals. Sodium outside the cell, potassium inside the cell. This balance is essential for nerve function, muscle contraction, and blood pressure regulation. But in the modern diet, we consume far too much sodium and far too little potassium. This imbalance causes your cells to retain water and sodium, increasing blood volume and blood pressure. But even more importantly, this mineral imbalance affects your arterial muscle cells. When sodium is too high relative to potassium, your arterial muscles become tense, contracted, unable to relax, your vessels constrict, blood pressure rises, but magnesium is the real key that almost everyone is missing. Magnesium is nature's calcium channel blocker. It keeps calcium in your bones where it belongs and out of your arteries where it causes damage. Magnesium also relaxes arterial smooth muscle, allowing your vessels to dilate and blood pressure to normalize. When magnesium levels are adequate, your arteries stay flexible and relaxed. When magnesium is deficient, calcium floods into your arterial walls, your vessels constrict, and blood pressure rises. Here's the problem. An estimated 75% of people are deficient in magnesium. Why? Because magnesium is found primarily in dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and whole grains, foods that most people don't eat nearly enough of. And several common factors deplete magnesium even further. Stress burns through magnesium rapidly, alcohol depletes magnesium, coffee depletes magnesium. Diuretics, which are often prescribed for high blood pressure, deplete magnesium dramatically. So you have people who are already deficient in magnesium being given a medication that depletes their magnesium even more. This makes their arterial stiffness worse. It's a vicious cycle. I remember a gentleman named Thomas. He was 64 years old on a diuretic for high blood pressure for 7 years. His blood pressure was somewhat controlled, but he had developed muscle cramps, especially at night. He couldn't sleep well because his calves would seize up. His doctor told him this was just part of aging. But I knew immediately what the problem was. The diuretic was depleting his magnesium. The muscle cramps were a symptom of severe magnesium deficiency, and his arterial muscles were just as deficient as his leg muscles, contributing to his ongoing hypertension. We started Thomas on a high-quality magnesium supplement, 600 milligrams daily of magnesium glycinate. We also increased magnesium-rich foods in his diet, lots of leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, almonds. Within 1 week, his muscle cramps stopped. Within 1 month, his blood pressure started dropping. We worked with his doctor to reduce his diuretic dose. Within 3 months, Thomas was off the diuretic completely. His blood pressure was normal, averaging 124/80, maintained by magnesium, potassium-rich foods and a healthy diet. No medication needed. The magnesium had allowed his arterial muscles to relax, his vessels regained flexibility, his blood pressure normalized naturally. So those are the 3 hidden mechanisms destroying your arterial flexibility and causing your hypertension. Arterial concrete from endothelial damage and calcium deposits, sugar glue from chronic blood sugar spikes, creating AGs, and mineral imbalance, specifically magnesium deficiency. These 3 mechanisms work together, reinforcing each other, creating a downward spiral of progressive arterial damage and worsening hypertension. But here's the good news. All 3 mechanisms are reversible. Your body wants to heal. It's designed to heal. When you remove the factors causing damage and provide the nutrients needed for repair, your arteries can restore their flexibility. Your blood pressure can normalize. You can be free from medication. Now I want to address something before we go further into the solution protocol. You might be thinking, Barbara, if this is all true, why doesn't my doctor tell me this? Why are they just giving me pills instead of addressing these mechanisms? That's a fair question, and it deserves an honest answer. The truth is, most doctors don't know this information. Medical school teaches doctors how to diagnose diseases and prescribe medications. It doesn't teach them about cellular health, nutritional biochemistry, or how the body heals naturally. They're not taught about the endothelium, about AGEs, about magnesium deficiency as a cause of hypertension. They're taught that high blood pressure is a disease requiring lifelong medication. And once that's the framework they're working from, they don't look for alternatives. But there's also an economic reality. The pharmaceutical industry makes billions of dollars selling blood pressure medications. These are lifelong prescriptions. Once you start taking them, you're usually told you'll need them forever. That's an enormous consistent revenue stream. There's no financial incentive for pharmaceutical companies to fund research into nutritional interventions that would eliminate the need for their medications. So most of the research that gets done, most of the studies that get published, most of the information that doctors receive is pharmaceutical research about pharmaceutical solutions. Natural approaches like magnesium supplementation, dietary changes, endothelial healing, these don't get the research funding. They don't get the publicity. They don't get taught in medical schools, so doctors simply don't know about them. I'm not blaming doctors. Most doctors genuinely want to help their patients. They're working with the information they've been given. But that information is incomplete. And until more doctors are willing to look beyond what they learnt in medical school and explore the science of natural healing, patients will continue to be told that medication is their only option. But you now know differently. You know there's another way. Let's talk about the solution. The protocol that actually reverses the 3 mechanisms we've discussed, I'm going to break this down into 4 specific steps. Each step addresses one or more of the underlying mechanisms, and when you implement all 4 steps together, you create an environment in your body where arterial healing can occur. This isn't theory. This isn't hopeful thinking. This is based on biochemistry, cellular biology and clinical experience with thousands of people who have reversed their hypertension using these exact principles. Step 1, endothelial restoration. Remember, your endothelium is that delicate one-cell thick lining inside your arteries. When it's damaged, it can't produce nitric oxide. Your vessels can't relax. Calcium starts depositing in the walls. The first priority is healing this lining, and to do that, you must stop the dietary assault that's damaging it. The primary destroyers of the endothelium are oxidized vegetable oils, refined sugar, and processed foods. These create massive oxidative stress that inflames and damages your endothelial cells. So step 1 begins with removing these foods entirely from your diet. No more vegetable oil, canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, or any industrial seed oil. These oils are in almost every processed food, every restaurant meal, every packaged snack. Read labels carefully. Cook with butter, coconut oil, olive oil, or animal fats instead. Eliminate refined sugar. No white sugar, no high fructose corn syrup, no artificial sweeteners. If you need sweetness, use small amounts of raw honey or stevia. And eliminate processed foods. Anything that comes in a box, a bag, a package, with a long list of ingredients you can't pronounce, remove it from your diet. I know this sounds extreme. I know you might be thinking, Barbara, what will I eat? But trust me, once you make this shift, once you start eating real whole foods, your taste buds will change. You'll stop craving the processed junk and your body will start healing. Now, removing the damage is essential, but we also need to actively support endothelial healing. The most important nutrient for this is vitamin C. Vitamin C is required for collagen production, which is essential for maintaining the structural integrity of your blood vessels. It's also a powerful antioxidant that protects your endothelium from oxidative damage. I recommend getting at least 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily from a combination of food and supplements. Food sources include citrus fruits, bell peppers, broccoli, strawberries, and kiwi. For supplementation, I prefer a buffered vitamin C or a whole food vitamin C supplement. The second critical nutrient is something most people have never heard of. It's called L-arginine. L-arginine is an amino acid that your body uses to produce nitric oxide. Remember, nitric oxide is what signals your arteries to relax. When your endothelium is damaged, it can't produce enough nitric oxide on its own. Supplementing with L-arginine provides the raw material your body needs to restore nitric oxide production. The research on L-arginine for hypertension is very strong. Studies show that 3 to 6 grams of L-arginine daily can lower blood pressure by 10 to 20 points within 4 to 12 weeks. That's comparable to medication, but L-arginine is actually healing your endothelium, not just manipulating the pressure reading. I typically recommend starting with 3 grams daily, taken in divided doses, 1,500 milligrams in the morning and 1,500 milligrams in the evening. You can increase to 6 grams if needed, but always start lower and increase gradually. The third nutrient for endothelial healing is called beetroot powder or beetroot juice. Beets are one of the richest dietary sources of nitrates. When you consume nitrates, your body converts them into nitric oxide. This gives your endothelium a boost, helping it produce the nitric oxide your arteries need to relax. Studies have shown that drinking beetroot juice daily can lower blood pressure by 8 to 10 points within just 2 weeks. I recommend either fresh beet juice, about 8 ounces daily, or a high-quality beetroot powder supplement following the dosage on the label. Let me tell you about Janet. She was 66 years old with high blood pressure, 148/92, on one medication. She came to me wanting to try natural approaches. We started with endothelial restoration. She eliminated all vegetable oils, sugar, and processed foods from her diet. We added 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily, 4 grams of L-arginine daily, and 1 glass of fresh beet juice every morning. Within 2 weeks, Janet's blood pressure had dropped to 136/86. Still elevated, but improving. Within 6 weeks, it was 128/82. We worked with her doctor to reduce her medication dosage. Within 3 months, Janet's blood pressure was 122/78, with half the medication dose she'd been on before. Within 6 months, she was off medication completely. Her blood pressure remained stable at around 120/76. Her endothelium had healed. Her arteries were producing nitric oxide normally again. This is the power of endothelial restoration. Step 2, breaking down the sugar glue. Remember, AGs are those advanced glycation end products that form when glucose attaches to proteins. They accumulate in your arterial walls, making them stiff and inflexible. The first part of this step is preventing new AG formation. That means stabilizing your blood sugar. No more blood sugar spikes. This requires eliminating or drastically reducing refined carbohydrates. No bread, pasta, rice, cereal, crackers, chips, or anything made with flour or added sugar. Replace these foods with non-starchy vegetables, quality proteins, healthy fats, and small amounts of low glycemic fruits like berries. Your meals should be built around vegetables and protein. Breakfast might be eggs with sautéed spinach and avocado. Lunch might be a large salad with grilled chicken, olive oil, and lemon dressing. Dinner might be wild-caught salmon with roasted broccoli and cauliflower. Snacks, if needed, should be nuts, seeds, or a small amount of cheese. This type of eating keeps your blood sugar stable throughout the day. No spikes, no crashes, no AGE formation, but we also need to break down the AGs that have already accumulated. And there's a specific compound that does this remarkably well. It's called carnosine. Carnosine is a dipeptide found primarily in muscle meat. It has a unique ability to bind to AGGs and facilitate their breakdown and removal from your body. Studies have shown that carnosine supplementation can reduce AG accumulation in tissues, including arterial walls. For people with hypertension and arterial stiffness, I recommend 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams of carnosine daily. You can get carnosine from eating meat, particularly beef and lamb, but supplementation provides therapeutic doses. Another powerful tool for breaking down AGs is something simple that you probably already have in your kitchen: apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar contains acetic acid, which has been shown to reduce AG formation and improve insulin sensitivity. Studies demonstrate that consuming 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar before meals can lower post-meal blood sugar spikes by 20 to 30%. This not only prevents new AG formation, but also helps break down existing AGs. I recommend diluting 1 tablespoon of raw unfiltered apple cider vinegar in a glass of water and drinking it 10 to 15 minutes before your 2 main meals each day. It's simple, inexpensive, and remarkably effective. I had a client named Richard. He was 69 years old with hypertension and pre-diabetes. His fasting blood sugar was 118. His A1C was 6.1. His blood pressure was 152/94 on 2 medications. When we looked at his diet, it was loaded with carbohydrates. Cereal for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, pasta for dinner, cookies for snacks. His blood sugar was spiking all day long. We completely restructured his diet, eliminating refined carbohydrates and focusing on vegetables, proteins, and healthy fats. We added 1,500 milligrams of carnosine daily and 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar before meals. The results were dramatic. Within 1 month, Richard's fasting blood sugar dropped to 98. His blood pressure dropped to 138/86. We reduced 1 medication. Within 3 months, his fasting blood sugar was 92. His A1C was 5.6, no longer pre-diabetic. His blood pressure was 126/80. We reduced the second medication. Within 6 months, Richard was off all blood pressure medication. His blood pressure averaged 120/78. His blood sugar was completely normal. By stabilizing his blood sugar and breaking down AGE, we'd restored flexibility to his arteries. His body had healed. Step 3, the mineral restoration protocol. This step addresses the catastrophic mineral imbalances that are contributing to your arterial stiffness and elevated blood pressure. The 3 key minerals are magnesium, potassium, and calcium, but they must be in the right balance. Let's start with magnesium. As I mentioned earlier, magnesium is nature's calcium channel blocker. It keeps calcium in your bones and out of your arteries. It relaxes arterial smooth muscle. It's absolutely essential for normal blood pressure. And most people are severely deficient. For someone with hypertension, I recommend 600 to 800 milligrams of magnesium daily. But the form of magnesium matters enormously. Magnesium oxide, which is the cheapest and most common form in drugstore supplements, is very poorly absorbed. Only about 4% gets into your bloodstream. The rest stays in your gut and causes diarrhea. Don't waste your money on magnesium oxide. Instead, use magnesium glycinate, magnesium threonate, or magnesium malate. These forms are highly absorbable. They get into your cells where they're needed. Take your magnesium in divided doses, 300 to 400 milligrams in the morning and 300 to 400 milligrams in the evening. Potassium is the second critical mineral. Potassium counterbalances sodium. When potassium intake is high, your body excretes excess sodium naturally. Blood volume normalizes, blood pressure drops. The problem is most people consume far too little potassium. The recommended intake is 4,700 milligrams daily, but the average person gets less than 2,500 milligrams. The best sources of potassium are vegetables and fruits. Leafy greens, avocados, sweet potatoes, bananas, oranges, tomatoes. If you're eating a diet rich in whole foods, especially vegetables, you'll get adequate potassium. But if your diet has been poor, supplementation can help. I often recommend a potassium supplement providing 300 to 500 milligrams daily, in addition to increasing dietary potassium. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Calcium. You've probably been told to take calcium supplements for bone health, correct? Especially if you're a woman over 60. But here's what nobody tells you. Taking calcium supplements without adequate magnesium and vitamin K2 can actually increase arterial calcification. The calcium you're taking for your bones might be ending up in your arteries instead. This is why calcium supplementation has been linked to increased cardiovascular risk in some studies. The calcium isn't going where it should, it's depositing in your arteries because you're deficient in the nutrients that direct calcium to your bones. So I generally do not recommend calcium supplements for people with hypertension unless they're also taking adequate magnesium and vitamin K2. And in most cases, if you're eating a whole foods diet with plenty of leafy greens, you're getting enough calcium from food. You don't need supplements. What you need is magnesium and K2 to make sure the calcium goes to your bones, not your arteries. Vitamin K2 is absolutely critical here. K2 activates proteins that pull calcium out of your arteries and push it into your bones. Without K2, calcium deposits in soft tissues, including arterial walls. With adequate K2, calcium goes where it belongs. The best food source of K2 is natto, a fermented soybean product. But most people don't eat natto, so I recommend a K2 supplement, specifically the MK7 form, at a dose of 180 to 360 micrograms daily. When you combine K2 with magnesium, you create an environment where calcium is actively removed from your arteries and deposited in your bones. Studies have shown that this combination can actually reverse arterial calcification. Your arteries can become less rigid, more flexible. Blood pressure normalizes. Let me share the story of Helen. She was 74 years old with severe hypertension. 68/96 on 3 medications. Her blood pressure was barely controlled. She also had severe osteoporosis and had been taking calcium supplements for years. When I saw her case, I immediately suspected that her calcium supplements without adequate magnesium and K2 were contributing to her arterial calcification and hypertension. We stopped her calcium supplements. We started her on 800 milligrams of magnesium glycinate daily, 360 micrograms of vitamin K2, MK7 daily, and increased her dietary potassium through lots of vegetables. Within 2 months, Helen's blood pressure started dropping. We reduced 1 medication. Within 4 months, her blood pressure was 142/88. We reduced another medication. Within 6 months, her blood pressure was 132/82 on just 1 medication. But here's the most remarkable part. We did a DEXA scan to check her bone density. Not only had her osteoporosis not worsened, it had actually improved slightly. The K2 and magnesium were directing calcium into her bones. Her bones were getting stronger while her arteries were getting more flexible. After 1 year, Helen's blood pressure was 124/78 on 1 low-dose medication. She felt better than she had in 20 years. This is the power of mineral balance. Step 4. The insulin reset. This is the final piece of the puzzle, and for many people it's the most important. You see, insulin is a hormone that doesn't just regulate blood sugar, it also regulates sodium retention in your kidneys. When insulin levels are chronically elevated, your kidneys hold on to sodium and water. Blood volume increases, blood pressure rises. This is why people with insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, or type 2 diabetes almost always have hypertension. The elevated insulin is driving sodium retention. But here's what most people don't realize. You can have elevated insulin levels even if your blood sugar is normal. This is called hyperinsulinemia, and it's incredibly common. Your pancreas is producing more and more insulin to keep your blood sugar in check. Eventually, your cells become resistant to insulin. Your pancreas has to produce even more. And all that extra insulin is telling your kidneys to hold on to sodium. Your blood pressure rises, but your doctor only checks your blood sugar, sees it's normal, and never realizes that your insulin is sky high. The solution is to lower your insulin levels, and the most effective way to do this is through a combination of intermittent fasting and carbohydrate restriction. Intermittent fasting means condensing your eating into a specific window each day and fasting the rest of the time. I typically recommend a 16-hour fast with an 8-hour eating window. For example, you might eat all your meals between noon and 8 p.m., then fast from 8 p.m. until noon the next day. During the fasting period, you can have water, herbal tea, or black coffee. No calories. Here's what happens during that 16-hour fast. Your insulin levels drop to baseline. Your kidneys are unlocked. They start excreting sodium. Blood volume normalizes. Blood pressure drops. Studies have shown that intermittent fasting can lower blood pressure by 10 to 15 points within just 8 weeks. And this is purely through insulin reduction. But intermittent fasting works even better when combined with carbohydrate restriction. Remember, carbohydrates are what spike your blood sugar and insulin most dramatically. By keeping your carbohydrate intake low, you keep insulin low throughout the day, even during your eating window. I generally recommend keeping total carbohydrates below 100 grams per day for someone with hypertension and insulin resistance. This doesn't mean zero carbs. You can still eat plenty of vegetables, some berries, maybe a small sweet potato, but you're eliminating the refined carbohydrates that spike insulin dramatically. Bread, pasta, rice, cereals, sugars. The combination of intermittent fasting and carbohydrate restriction creates a powerful insulin-lowering effect. Your cells become more sensitive to insulin. Your pancreas doesn't have to produce as much. Insulin levels normalize, sodium excretion normalizes, blood pressure normalizes. Let me tell you about Michael. He was 67 years old with hypertension and metabolic syndrome. His blood pressure was 156/94 on 2 medications. His fasting blood sugar was 112. His waist circumference was 44 inches. His doctor had told him he was heading toward diabetes and would probably need more medications. Michael came to me looking for a different approach. We implemented the full protocol: endothelial restoration, AGE breakdown, mineral balance, and insulin reset. But the insulin reset was the game changer for Michael. We started him on 16/8 intermittent fasting and reduced his carbohydrates to about 80 grams per day, all from vegetables and small amounts of fruit. Within 2 weeks, Michael had lost 6 pounds. Within 1 month, his blood pressure was 142/88. We reduced 1 medication. Within 3 months, his fasting blood sugar was 96. His blood pressure was 130/82. We reduced the second medication. Within 3 months, his fasting blood sugar was 96. His blood pressure was 130/82. We reduced the second medication. Within 6 months, Michael had lost 32 pounds. His waist was down to 38 inches. His fasting blood sugar was 88, completely normal. His blood pressure was 122/78 with no medication at all. Michael's doctor was stunned. He'd never seen such a dramatic transformation. But it wasn't magic. It was simply addressing the root cause. Michael's hyperinsulinemia had been driving his hypertension, his weight gain, his pre-diabetes. Once we normalized his insulin through fasting and carb restriction, everything else fell into place. His kidneys could excrete sodium normally. His blood pressure normalized, his body healed. This is what I want you to understand. Your body is designed to be healthy. It's designed to maintain normal blood pressure, normal blood sugar, healthy weight. But it can't do this when you're constantly assaulting it with processed foods, refined carbohydrates, oxidized oils, and chronic overeating. When you remove those assaults and provide your body with the nutrients it needs, minerals, vitamins, quality proteins, healthy fats, healing happens. It happens consistently. It happens predictably. I've seen it thousands of times. People who were told they'd be on medication for life, walking away from those medications completely, bodies healing themselves when given the right support. And you can be one of those people. You don't have to accept that hypertension is a life sentence. You don't have to believe that medication is your only option. You have another choice. You can choose to address the root causes. You can choose to heal. Now, I know that what I've shared with you today is a lot of information. 4 steps, multiple supplements, dietary changes, intermittent fasting. You might be feeling overwhelmed, wondering where to start. Let me simplify it for you. Start with just 1 step. Pick the one that resonates most with you. Maybe it's eliminating processed foods and starting endothelial restoration. Maybe it's beginning intermittent fasting to reset your insulin. Maybe it's adding magnesium and K2 for mineral balance. Just start with 1, implement it fully. Do it for 2 weeks. Monitor your blood pressure daily. Notice how your body responds. Then once that first step becomes a habit, add the second step, then the third, then the fourth. Within 3 to 6 months, you'll have implemented the complete protocol. And I can almost guarantee that your blood pressure will have improved significantly, possibly even normalized. Many people are able to reduce or eliminate their medications within 6 months when working with a knowledgeable healthcare provider. But even if you're not able to completely eliminate medication, even if you can just reduce the dosage or the number of medications you're taking, that's still a massive win. That's still healing. Remember, every medication has side effects. The fewer medications you're on, the better you'll feel. And more importantly, by addressing the root causes, You're not just lowering a number on a monitor, you're actually healing your arteries. You're restoring flexibility, you're reducing your risk of heart attack and stroke, you're preventing the progression of cardiovascular disease. This is true health, not symptom management, but actual cellular healing, and it's available to you if you're willing to make the changes necessary. Now, I want to address something important before we close. Throughout this video, I've shared specific protocols, specific supplements, specific dietary recommendations. But I want to be very clear. I am not your healthcare provider. I don't know your specific medical history, your medication list, your other health conditions. What I've shared are general principles that have worked for thousands of people, but you need to work with a qualified healthcare practitioner to implement these protocols safely, especially if you're on blood pressure medication. Never stop or reduce your medication without medical supervision. Blood pressure can be dangerous if it spikes uncontrolled. You need to be monitored carefully as you implement these changes. Find a doctor, naturopathic physician, or functional medicine practitioner who understands natural approaches and is willing to work with you. They can help you implement these protocols safely, monitor your progress, and adjust your medications as needed. This is crucial. Don't try to do this alone. And one more thing, these protocols work, but they require commitment. You can't implement them halfway and expect full results. You can't eliminate processed foods Monday through Friday and then eat pizza and ice cream all weekend and expect your arteries to heal. You can't take the supplements but continue eating refined carbohydrates at every meal and expect your blood pressure to normalize. This requires real change, permanent change, a complete shift in how you think about food, health, and your body. But here's the beautiful thing. Once you make these changes, once you start feeling better, having more energy, seeing your blood pressure drop, the motivation becomes self-sustaining. You don't want to go back to your old ways because you feel so much better now. The sugar cravings disappear. The processed foods stop tasting good. Your body starts craving real, whole, nourishing foods. The change that seems so difficult at first becomes your new normal, and that's when true healing happens. When healthy living becomes effortless because it's just who you are now. So I'm challenging you today. I'm challenging you to take control of your health, to stop accepting that medication is your only option, to understand that your body can heal if you give it what it needs and stop giving it what's harming it. The choice is yours. You can continue down the path you're on, taking medications that manage symptoms but never address causes, watching your health slowly decline, adding more medications as you age, living in fear of the heart attack or stroke that might be coming. Or you can choose a different path, the path of understanding, of addressing root causes, of supporting your body's innate healing capacity, the path that leads to truly restored health, not just managed disease. I've seen thousands of people take this path and completely transform their lives, not just their blood pressure, but their energy, their clarity, their vitality, their confidence in their body's ability to heal. You can be one of those people. You can be the person who shocks their doctor at their next appointment with blood pressure numbers they haven't seen in years. You can be the person who reduces or eliminates medications and feels better than they have in decades. You can be the person who proves that natural healing works when you address the actual mechanisms of disease. If this video has opened your eyes to what hypertension really is and how it can actually be reversed, I want you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel right now. I share videos like this every week, diving deep into health topics that your doctor probably isn't explaining to you. Information that can truly change your life. Second, share this video with someone you know who has high blood pressure. Most people suffering from hypertension have no idea that there's an alternative to lifelong medication. You could be the one who introduces them to information that changes their life. Share it with your spouse, your parent, your friend, anyone who needs to hear this message. And third, leave a comment below telling me what step you're going to start with. Are you going to begin endothelial restoration? Are you going to start intermittent fasting? Are you going to add magnesium and K2? I want to hear from you. Your comment might inspire someone else to take action too. And if you want more detailed information, if you want step-by-step protocols, supplement recommendations, meal plans, everything you need to implement what we've discussed today, I've created a comprehensive guide that goes far beyond what I can cover in a video. It's available through the link in the description below. This guide includes the exact protocols I use with my clients, detailed shopping lists, supplement recommendations with specific brands and dosages, meal plans and recipes, tracking sheets to monitor your progress, and guidance on working with your doctor to safely reduce medications. Everything you need to reverse your hypertension naturally. Click the link in the description to get access. This information could save your life. It could prevent a heart attack, a stroke, kidney failure, or the dozens of other complications that come from untreated arterial damage. Don't wait. Don't put this off thinking you'll start next week or next month. Your arteries are being damaged right now, today, with every processed meal you eat, every blood sugar spike, every day your magnesium deficiency continues. The time to start healing is now. Your body is waiting. It's ready to heal. It just needs you to remove the obstacles and provide the support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being open to a different way of thinking about your health. I know that what I've shared challenges everything you've been told by the medical system, but I hope you can see that it's based on sound science, on understanding how your body actually works at the cellular level. When you understand mechanism, when you address root causes, healing is not only possible, it's inevitable. Your body wants to heal. Let it. Take care, be well, and remember, you have far more power over your health than you've been led to believe. God bless.